where we talk about Ukraine, Poland, Russia, and all things around. This is episode 1 with a special host all the way from Ukraine, living in Poland, Yan.
Oh, thanks you for having me. It's such a big honor, such a big honor.
What I've heard from people say is that they've said that Ukraine has a big energy issue. Yan, is that true?
I would say the issue is there, but it's definitely not big. It's not huge, especially now. Now it's definitely normalized.
That is very true. So you're saying that most people are like taking the what's actually happening, the little thing, and they're making it bigger than it actually is.
I would say that media has covered a lot about the power outages, the whole grid not being enough to sustain enough people. But the media does not cover that it got fixed. When it gets fixed, it's not a great news to get people's attention.
Yes. So that is the misconception that that we're going to be talking about today and right now. That Ukraine has a huge issue with power, and that they have basically zero power. And then there is an instinct that is tied with it, that relate to this kind of issue. And the one that we are going to be talking about is the size instinct. So what the size instinct is basically saying that something that is little can be like covered in a manner that makes it seem bigger than it actually is. This problem, yes, it was extreme in the past, but that has been uploaded by media several dozens of times. And because of that, people think it's a huge deal than it actually is. This is what the size instinct means.
Was fixed and from that point on, the schedule came into your life or left, depending on the fierceness of Russian strikes, depending on the severity of the situation. It would sometimes the schedule wouldn't work. Sometimes it would just out of the power entirely because the grid just couldn't handle it.
Okay.
But it definitely wasn't catastrophic, at least in most parts of the country.
So like it was still happening, it still was going on and off, but it wasn't as bad as people think it is.
Definitely. I hear people all the time thinking that, everything is rubble, nothing works. Like, there's dead people right on the streets, and it's not like it. It is still rough, it's still hard, but it's
not
the country's holding on.
It's not as big. It's not as big as people thought it was, which is exactly why I chose the misconception and related it to the. That is why I chose this instinct for this misconception, the size instinct. As I mentioned before, the size instinct is making something seem worse or bigger than it actually is. Yes, sure, there have been power outages. It can be hard, but it's not like so bad that you need to get out of there fast. Of course, yeah, Yan definitely moved from Ukraine to Poland, but it wasn't exactly because it was like just the worst place ever to be in the world. It was pretty bad, but that's not why he moved, because it would just be better to live another.
It was mostly for the opportunities.
Yes, because who knows, as he's mentioned before in the migration project, which I'm pretty sure none of you have watched, what he said was that that his mom said that they might not have another opportunity to leave the city or the country, so they decided to do it now while they still can. So that's why they're there now, rather than still a little bit outside of the Harkey region where he used to live, the big city. Excuse me. Yeah, the size instinct. Let's go back to that. Um, yeah, so it's not as big as people usually see it as. It is still bad, sure, but again, it's not the worst place to ever live. That spot is reserved for Chicago and Detroit.
Also, I would like to add that it's also, speaking of the size, the country is big, huge, the biggest country in Europe.
Second biggest.
No, the biggest. Russia is partly in Asia, so it doesn't count.
Well, I mean, the territory is the biggest, but where they actually live is questionable.
Yeah, and the territory is in Asia, so it doesn't count as a full European country.
Yeah. So,
as I was saying, the country is big, it's huge, it's massive.
Yes.
Logistics is a huge deal, especially in the power field. So even though somewhere in the east may be having problems with power, somewhere in the west we may still be selling power to the EU, to other countries, simply because we just cannot move it to the east. It's logistically impossible.
So that's, I guess we could end it now. That is at least 13 minutes so far. So we're going to move on to the summarization. So what we've talked about so far, what we talked about in this podcast, because this is the end of the podcast, we have talked about how people think that things in Ukraine are bad, terrible. They think that Ukraine is dying. They think that Ukraine is in rubble. They think Ukraine has absolutely no way of providing power to itself. And what we've talked about in this podcast is that is not entirely true. Yes, sure, there is problems with issues with power and all that stuff, but it is not dead, at least not yet. What do you think about that, Yan? At least not yet?
Absolutely. Just like the answer.
Exactly. So, if you've been thinking about Ukraine as just like, oh my God, poor Ukraine. They're in so much in trouble. They're living in a very poor lifestyle. No, they're not. They're fine for the most part. They're not actively dying.
Oh, as fine as a nation in war can be.
Yeah,
I think we are.
Yes. Well, we don't live there anymore, so I don't think you're technically qualified to say we are. You're in Poland right now, so
I'm still there spiritually.
He's still there spiritually, everyone. Yeah, more summarization. Yeah, so the websites that we have looked up are pretty much relevant. Even though the article I have cited is from 2022. Ukraine. Yan's account that we have talked about today seems that it is true. There have been, I mean, obviously it's true, but like the timeline of events seems legit. What do you think, Yan? Oh wait, hold on. This was issued.
Yes,
This was issued in 2023. Interesting.
The accounts seem legit.
For the most part.
The accounts seemed legit to me. As well, I'm pretty sure everybody at that moment thought the same.
You're cutting out. You're cutting.
Everybody thought like, no way.
He cut out again. I think that was another delay. I'm gonna have to have you repeat that a bit. Sorry.
All right. But yes, that does seem legitimate as well. I believe at that point everybody kind of thought the same thoughts as per there's no way really. How is this reality? What now? What do we do now? And well, yeah.
It's perfectly.
No matter if you're a foreigner or or born and lived there your whole life.
Yeah, it's perfectly normal to take things a little like seriously, like expect things are the worst, especially when media is telling you it's the worst. It's totally normal to think that, but sometimes what you have to do is actually look stuff up, look online. Well, actually, online is pretty bad too because like they're telling you that everything is worse.
Listen to the people.
Depends which people
that have no reason to lie to you.
Yeah. I mean, the article we were just talking about is called France24.com. I'm assuming it's a French the French news website, I guess, because I mean, like France is in Europe, which so I mean they're a bit more reliable to for as a news source because they're in Europe and we are not in Europe. Is that yeah? Can you confirm real quick? Are we in Europe?
Yes. Well, I am.
Exactly.
You not particular.
Exactly. So my suggestion at this point is try not to trust any sites from America as much as you can, because they're not always going to be like reliable. Um, Try to go for French websites. French websites. Oh my god, French websites. They're the best at European stuff. So follow those. Does that make sense, Jan?
Well, I still wouldn't dismiss the person behind the article. It more depends on, well, a journalist might be in Ukraine, or he might just be speaking out of his home. An Australian in Ukraine would still be more reliable than a Ukrainian all the way in America. So keep that in mind.
That makes total sense. Absolutely. But let me check my thing. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So summary of the summary. Um, Everything in Ukraine is better than you think it is. And I guess that's pretty much it. Um, this has been the Ukrainian Bobber. Bobber means beaver.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. That was pretty conclusive.
Yeah. So this has been the Ukrainian Bobber. Bobber means beaver, and look up Kora Bobber on YouTube. Great piece of media right there. Well, this has been the Ukrainian Barber signing off to see you guys another later. All right, see you.